Hello, I'm Cog, here to tell you you're watching the Off Topic podcast. Really listening, not watching it unless it's on YouTube. Alright, I'm gonna leave. And now I'm here. Joel, the person that talks the most in these. And Daniel's back again.
Yes, I'm actually Joel doing a voice.
No, you're not. I do declare.
I actually do this voice that Rachel either loves or hates, I can't tell, she laughs. Where I call him Herbert von Seltzer.
He's my German voice.
All right, hang on, I can't look at you. What are you talking about? Of course, this has always been my accent. Why are you talking like that? Rachel, I don't know what you mean. I wish you nothing but happiness and joy. I used to throw in a couple random German pronunciations.
And ders and
yeah, it's great.
And Fraus.
And she hey, how many how many things of chicken do you have left? Do you want me to cook one tonight? 9. What do you mean by that? I have 9 chicken left. What do you mean? It's so simple. It's 9. And she's like, no, stop though. But she'll either, especially when she's tired level, so tired she's almost slap happy, drunk, laughing.
Oh, yeah.
If I do that, she's falling to the ground, red in the face. I did that one time at a lodge we were at for our honeymoon. Mm-hmm. It's mostly carpeted except for the entrance and the kitchen. She was standing in the kitchen and she collapsed laughing and almost hit her head on. I'm like, are you trying to get a 3rd concussion? Seriously?
I don't like the fact you start on my honeymoon I did that voice.
Oh no. But so I have agreed with her because Jason Momoa, who I had to explain who that was to her, even though Aquaman's one of her favorite movies, period, because she loves the ocean. Yeah, it's difficult. I even got her a Mira comic book that's got this cool art style where only everything's sort of faded except for the color red. It's a really cool look. I was trying to explain. Jason Momoa is Aquaman, okay, and he's also going to be in Tulsa, which doesn't make any sense, at a Comic-Con. I'm like, I'm getting a replica trident, and I'm having him sign it, and we're putting it above the TV in our bedroom. And she's like, no, we'll just put it over the bed. It'll fit with the sort of oceanic theme we have. I'm like, really? I can do that? And she's like, yeah, no, it fits with the theme. I have, netting, and, it'll look great with, the lights and everything. I was like, so you mean that I can grab that trident, stare you in the eyes, and say, I am the king of the seas?
I am the Ocean Master.
No, I will say, Ocean Master, underrated. He was pretty good. All the villains in that were really good, actually. Because even Black Manta was great.
Yeah, and I was worried they were going to waste Willem Dafoe. They did a good job with him.
Did you notice that Ocean Master looks like comic book Aquaman? Yeah, they did that as a way to call it. Yeah. Also, they're not filming Aquaman 2 right now, even though it's supposed to start pre-production, because Jason Momoa is in the middle of a protest on a Hawaiian island where there's a volcano where people have been trying to build a telescope for almost 9 years, I think. And he's like, this is a sacred place, build it somewhere else. And they just refuse to. And so he's refusing to leave there along with all these other people. Native Americans are showing there to be hey, we've had to go through this too. The American government really sucks sometimes, right? So they're protesting it. And then Ezra Miller, the Flash, showed up to help him protest. And Dwayne Johnson was showing up this is ridiculous. Yeah. So they're hey, sorry, Jason Momoa can't film a movie where he plays a guy protecting the ocean. He's too busy here protecting the ocean and the islands in it.
That's your movie right there.
Honestly, yeah, it could be.
If that's just the opening, is that he's helping a protest?
Dude, I don't even care if in it Aquaman isn't buff because he just has his natural Jason Momoa bod, which is still, people were giving him flack because he has he doesn't even really have a gut. It's just not ab definition, and his arms aren't chiseled. They're still muscular.
At least it's a swimmer's body, which makes sense.
He's still in way better shape than 90% of mankind.
And if you want to get accurate, if you have super strength, technically your muscles be pretty much atrophied all the time.
I always thought Superman, if he's not working out in extreme environments or under the red sun, he should look,
or at least
like Brian Deckhart,
or at least very quickly, movements, constantly,
maybe he does a lot of body weight workouts,
Yeah. Very, very, a lot of quick sort of jabs and stuff.
You just some hit sessions, some high intensity interval training.
Jumping jacks, probably. Just
get. I wonder if he has to go to another planet where there's no life to work out. That's his literal Planet Fitness. It's imagine, how is that not a thing in a superhero show? It's welcome to Planet Fitness, where there's no one here alive on the planet, so you can work out as much as you need to. You have laser eyes, point them in that direction. These quadrants are allowed for laser blasts. There's no planets in the orbit of it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that would actually be a really good idea.
See,
just a show that's like we run a gym for superheroes.
I'd been writing a story on and
the
off.
guy's like tries to hit on one of the superhero girls that goes in.
I'd been writing a story on and off about superheroes, and it was going to be like, hey, they have like protection plans you can buy, like a subscription where it'll be like laser walls that come up that protect you, like in episode 1 Phantom Menace Star Wars. So if superheroes are flying, there's not a Metropolis situation. They hit the reflector thing and they bounce off, and it's someone else's problem. Where they have tunnels like in Pacific Rim, like the kaiju tunnels to go hide in when there's a big fight. They'd have stuff like that. You know, they would have merchandise. And superheroes, maybe they don't all have the same powers, but they'll have like, okay, well, you're going to take this guy's place. Like this guy was, you know, we'll say he was Paragon. That was Superman equivalent. He had laser vision. You have other powers, but you can't fly and you don't have laser vision. So we're going to give you boots and cuffs that let you fly and a pair of sunglasses that replicate laser vision. And so you inherit that role. So like there's been 3 Sergeant Stars and Stripes, and it's always a different guy with a similar shtick that they had military service or something like that.
I really don't
like a legacy
the whole
character.
Marvel thing where it's like, oh, this new hero we've made. What's their name? They're Batman.
Well, yeah, that would be my whole thing. As I was sort of taking a thing, and with the boys, it pissed me off because the whole action that starts off is that the guy's girlfriend gets liquefied by a speedster, and my thing was going to be this guy is just going, and he doesn't really like superheroes. It's like it creates so much more work for me to do. It sucks. I get it; they're fine, but I'm not really a big fan. And then he would be hit, like he was either going to be hit by a truck that was being chased by a superhero, or like an explosion would happen because a superhero went through a building and it hit him. And basically because the superhero did the damage, the superhero company, and it was going to be treated more like sports teams where they trade people and you try to get to higher leagues and you don't want to burn out. So it's going to be not, instead of Hollywood stars like the boys, it was going to be like athletes. So, and this is all before I knew the boys existed. It was going to just be like, since we screwed you up, we'll pay for your medical services. And a doctor was going to be like, hey, doesn't it suck that they suck? I'll make you a superhero and then you can do the right thing. It's like, but I hate superheroes. It's like, yeah, well, you can either be a cripple or we can use this technology and give you superpowers. And then he would join and find out that supervillains were in fact, like, they didn't exist. There were a couple of them, but for the most part, they were people that had powers that then were being given extra powers so they could be at a higher tier. And then if they were disgruntled or the things went wrong, they were just let loose and they would be pretty feral, and they had like Wolverine whenever he first got out.
Maybe they constantly need injections to keep their powers, and without that they kind of get irritable.
Well, I was still sort of workshopping a little bit of it, but the idea would basically be that most of the supervillains that attack things
were previous heroes.
Were people who thought that they had basically gone to like the casting couch of the Justice League, and they either were told they didn't make it, but if they meet the guy they were let down by at a different location, there might be another position that they can fulfill, and then they're either intentionally making them villains with weaknesses that superpowers can exploit so that it's an easy, clear win, or they're promising them that they can be a superhero if they bump their powers up high enough, but doing that often leads to instability, sort of like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I got the idea from the movie Zoom, starring Tim the Toolman Taylor, where they tried to bump everyone's powers up and it drove the dude's brother bananas.
Actually a really good
It's a cool premise, yeah.
I'd totally love to see a remake of that.
I would just like it if no one ever mentioned it again, but it's stuck in my head for all time. Like the fact that he had the vibrator finger that he only used for making milkshakes. Yeah, sure. You're dating Monica from Friends.
Yeah.
Don't play with me.
He diddled his prostate.
I did not mean on himself, but okay. There's a... Ugh. Anyway, trying to get that mental image. Oh my god, a middle-aged man is doing that in my head. Ah! God!
Anywho, on the topic of superheroes,
Ugh.
I've often said Dakin was a missed opportunity, Wolverine's son. He's half Japanese, because, like, essentially during World War II or something, he hung out with some Japanese people. The Wolverine explained the plot. He, like, banged a woman and then a baby happened of it. They don't show the baby, but still. I've said that what they should do is instead have it be... There was, like, the Silver Samurai family or whatever that he ends up banging into. They were, like, very, like, samurais, like, yeah, everyone else is trying to go on technology. We believe that, like, samurais had something valuable that we don't want to get lost in time. They're, like, very traditional, very stuck in that way of life. And they essentially trained Dakin to be like that. And so he's a samurai who is immortal and very honorable. And then he meets Wolverine, who is the opposite of honorable.
Oh, so instead of like Son of Batman, where it's a very strict, driven man meeting his sort of out of control son, it's a very strict and honorable son meeting a sort of alcoholic
Trunks
deadbeat
and
dad.
Vegeta, sort of.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even have the sword. That's the thing. He would have a adamantium sword, or vibranium, whichever one it was.
It was vibranium. I remember that his third claws that came out from his wrists, which were dumb. Or no, it was adamantium.
Yeah, adamantium, because vibranium was the vibrating Captain America shield. Adamantium.
But he had a special type of metal in his like sheaths made for his bones claws, because although he had them all covered in metal, the under wrist claws were made with something that would specifically be harder to heal from those with healing factors. So he could potentially kill his father because he didn't like him in the comics, or Deadpool, which
also,
just makes sense.
His claws should just be like Wolverine's claws, except bone, because obviously he didn't undergo the procedure. Because the freaking claw underneath the wrist,
It looks dumb.
yeah,
It looks real dumb.
I like the idea that Logan did it really good, where it's like women have the two claws and the one in the toe.
Yeah, it's like a male and female genetic
Yeah,
thing.
because like they compare, and I think they compared it to tigers or lions, where
Yeah.
they have like different claws in different areas. Like,
You just have to spout a little bit of science nonsense, and I'll buy it.
yeah, and that's the thing. I like the idea that like Wolverine has the cool adamantium claws, but like, and the other one's like, no, don't do that. It's sort of, I'd compare it to Kingsman, sort of gentlemanly behavior, but fighting when need to. Sort of the main guy. What was the guy who trained Eggsy in Kingsman 1?
Colin Firth, I don't remember his name.
Yeah,
They had night names, so it was
Yeah.
like Galahad or something like that.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, so I would go with sort of that mentality. You can look up the bar scene from Kingsman 1 and get an idea. of
Or
what
just
I'm talking
watch
about.
Kingsman. I mean,
Yeah, Kingsman's
Why
a good
not?
movie. I have Kingsman 2 on my laptop because I just keep collecting people's digital codes for things,
Yep.
and it's amazing.
like a klepto.
It's freaking amazing. I have Aquaman and stuff. I also watched the last How to Train Your Dragon movie, and they ballsy ending. I'm gonna say it.
Is that the one where the dragons get kidnapped and they wear like makeshift dragon suits?
Yeah, the reason they explain that is that dragons shed scales, you know, like reptiles.
I just
So-
remember thinking it was kind of a cool idea because now
Also, freaking tough ass guy has a flame sword.
that's pretty baller.
That the blade collapses, but it also ignites with like the same sort of oil that they, the drool that comes out of dragons. So whenever they salivate, they're able to just kind of collect it. It's like, that's kind of cool.
It's like a weird, almost D&D world they've made.
But here's the thing: the whole bearded him that they show in the trailers, that's at the end of the movie, after the dragons have left, because people are hunting dragons to the end of the earth, and they're like we found the place where dragons are able to stay safe, and it's essentially Bermuda Triangle. It's like we just have to let all the dragons go. We have to get them out of here. And the whole thing is like, one day, if people stop trying to kill everything they think they can, like that they think that would be awesome to kill, maybe they could return. Essentially, we just got rid of the barbaric nature of Vikings.
Huh.
They return, but you show him with Astrid, the girl in it, and their two kids,
Whoa.
and they see like Toothless, and apparently he had kids with that white one, and it's like, essentially it looks like how cats will sometimes be white and black, like mixes with their three kids, and it's like, hey, here's that. But then you have bearded him, and it's like,
Have you
he essentially
seen-
tries to get his kids to tame a dragon, like tries to teach them how, as they're like heading on a longboat in the middle of nowhere, and it's like it's a ballsy move. We're like, yeah, we freaking cauterize food. If we're ever having How to Train Your Dragons return, it's gonna be like probably in the modern day or something.
Don't give them ideas.
I would freaking watch the crap out of that. Like,
You know, the whole, the way Toothless responds to having, I think it's his tail fixed?
Yeah.
They put like tape on a cat's tail and they mocapped the cat freaking out. So the fact that they're still basing it slightly on the way cats behave and move, I wouldn't be surprised if they used more
the
mocap from
eyes.
animals.
I think someone had shown that like the two-headed one is snakes. The one that the girl rides is a parrot.
Oh, so they all have
Yeah,
mannerisms.
they kind of looked at different animals to sort of get the mannerisms, to get the the personalities down, and I was like, that's really smart.
Gotta be honest, when we started talking, I did not expect to go to How to Train Your Dragon.
The first one's not bad.
The most I've seen of it is just that meme where it's like him doing the weird mating dance thing, and she's
Yeah.
weirded out, and it cuts back to Toothless, and he's like just giving the thumbs up.
Hiccup, that's his name.
Hiccup.
Which
Wow,
apparently
that's a bad name.
Well, apparently it's an actual Norwegian name. It means like
What?
runt. It means like runt.
So
or
every
late
time I have a
bloomer.
hiccup, I have a late bloomer. I get the hiccups a lot.
Yeah, which also a little unseen line is the fact that the whole helmet that he has, like, this was your mother's breastplate, turned it into a helmet.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is Dolly Parton his mom?
Ugh.
I know they introduced the mother at some point.
Yeah, I don't care to look at proportions to check to see if it.
Well, I never saw the movie of it, but someone had shared a meme about Destiny because they recently released an exotic weapon in Destiny 2 that was in Destiny 1, and it said Destiny 1 veterans, whenever they get this weapon again, it's like, you're as beautiful as the day I lost you. And I was like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, freaking Gerard Butler was the dad.
Yeah.
There were a lot of...
I think his best acting is when you don't have to watch him act. Gerard Butler cannot act. I'm just going to say it. I wouldn't say it to his face.
Are you not entertained? That's probably a different guy.
That was Russell Crowe in Gladiator.
I get those two mixed up all the time.
They're very different movies.
They're very similar.
Did you hear the pitch for the sequel that isn't happening and there is a sequel that is happening? Originally, the sequel to the Gladiator movie was going to involve the ghost of Russell Crowe traveling through time, inspiring great leaders throughout time, and then being in a modern day, basically being like the Force ghost training like a descendant of his family lineage or the family lineage of one of the people that he knew.
You are saying the character he played, not actor.
No, not
I was
dead
picturing
Russell.
the actor Russell Crowe going through time.
Hey, a brief conversation. And he's dead.
Oh my goodness.
You are as red as your shirt, which is also red.
It's a Flash t-shirt that everyone says, hey, Bazinga, right? When I see it. Not, hey, the Flash, right?
Yeah, that really sucks.
It doesn't help that I look vaguely...
What, because you're a white dude?
Yeah, my hair kind of goes a similar way. That's why I have the facial hair. That's the only reason.
I thought you were a big fan of Captain Hook.
Well, that too.
But yeah, there actually is a sequel going, and I think it might actually still involve Ghost Russell Crowe.
Oh my goodness.
But it's the kid that was like, wow, I wish you were my father. I hope my uncle Joaquin Phoenix doesn't try and have sex with my mom anymore.
So that kid, yeah.
Yeah. He's becoming like a legitimate great general, and it's either his story as told like Gladiator style where it's just a very big epic, or they're keeping the element where Russell Crowe is a ghost who's like force guiding him. I have to admit, I almost want it to be Force Ghost because that would be wildly bizarre.
Isn't there in 300 there's like a guy who has an eye patch who's telling the story of Leonidas?
Yeah, he looks a lot like a way more fit, I just lost his name, Malcolm Reynolds. Nathan Fillion.
Here's the thing. In Fallout New Vegas, you can find a character named the Storyteller who's modeled after Ron Perlman, has an eye patch and Legionnaire armor.
Huh.
And there was clearly a 300 reference that he's like a storyteller, like telling the story
also,
of the lone one.
In the actual Spartan culture, if you came back wounded, having not like given your all on the battlefield, he would have been disgraced and kicked out to the very furthest outskirts of society in Spartan culture, because the whole thing is you either come back alive or you come back dead on your shield, like dragged back into town. Those are the two ways you return from battle. So, but again, it's a very cinematic, like almost as someone who heard about the battle was telling it to their offspring to sort of inspire them
of
the greatness of Sparta.
A guy telling the story.
Yeah, which apparently people were mad in Persia. They're like, we weren't monster people. Like, yeah, no, it's a dude telling a story.
And he's clearly biased.
Oh, absolutely. He lost his eyeball to you guys. Of course they were big monsters and they tried to kill us. But
yeah,
Leonidas...
He's trying to make them sound how cool he was.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, you don't understand. They were not even human. That's the only reason I came back
injured.
Yeah,
but that deformed guy wasn't even like that deformed. He like probably had.
Yeah, he had like a cleft lip and a bad hand.
Yeah, he probably had like.
But they're like, this deformed testicle of a man.
But you can't retire. It's like, dude, I'm just like.
I have
a lazy eye.
I've never been more uncomfortable watching movies than when I was in high school and someone put that on, and then it was just this awkward meatball person and a bizarre goat orgy, and I was like, this is a weird movie. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, the elders, and there's like weird slobbery man. He's like, I can see the future. And it's like, but we keep beautiful young virgins here. I'm like, ugh, what is this, Sparta or the Catholic Church? Singer.
That's something, like Disney keeps doing live action movies. Which one thing, I guess Ewan McGregor was in the Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, he was like the candle or something, right?
He was the candle?
I think he was the candle.
Well, I
can't remember his name. Lumiere. God, why do I know that?
Because he's friends with Cogsworth.
That was also the name of the Transformer that was made out of gears, and Transformers The Last Night, which now I'm giving you flashbacks to as punishment. You want to know, don't you, dude? It's bizarre that he can act that poorly.
The Kill the Beast song by the Villagers. They did a version of that that's like extended and really good.
I might have to listen to that.
It's.
I mean,
dope.
they got a really good guy to play Gaston.
Yeah, it was the Dracula from
Luke Evans, I believe, is his
from
name.
Dracula Untold, right?
Who I always thought would be a perfect Batman. Him and Michael Fassbender have been my number one pick since, like, I guess right around the time X-Men First Class was coming out. I was like, these two guys are actors that I think would be great for that. That was the first time I ever did a fan casting. I didn't know what fan casting was. I was like, well, if I was in charge of making a movie, what angle would I take? And I just started casting characters and I made a PowerPoint slideshow of it.
But I've said, like, it's going to be interesting to see if they ever try and do Hunchback in Notre Dame, where the Catholic Church, like, Catholic priests attracted
Kevin Spacey can be the guy who's like, the gypsy tempted me, it wasn't my fault.
Fire. I don't know why he sounds like that.
Yeah, you sounded like, that was just a weird mating call you made.
Yeah.
By the way, I joked that with Rachel that since we were in the mountains, I was like, this is our honeymoon, we need a safe word. She's like, what's a safe word? So I explained what a safe word was. I was like, maybe it should be moose, because there's a picture of a moose. And she's like, what? Why moose? I'm like, because there's a picture of a moose behind you. And I just thought that would work. I was like, what about 3 bears? Because guess what? There's a picture of 3 bears. She's like, no. I was like, okay, so we'll just go with moose. And she's like, moose is not going to be our safe word. I'm like, I think it should be. And so she starts tickling me like, no, moose, moose, moose. And like, wah! I made like a sound. She's like, what was that? It was my moose sound. And so now, every now and then, she'll just be like, you need to go clean this. I was like, wah! And I'll just make a sound. And she'll laugh because she knows I'm doing a intentionally horrible moose sound. And that it's my safe word. Like, I'm not comfortable with all the chores you're giving me.
That would be.
It would definitely end the mojo. It's like, oh, you look so beautiful tonight.
What happens if you reach the point where it's like, doesn't even stop me anymore? It's just like, it's like, and someone goes, wah! And you're like, that's whatever.
If that doesn't let you know, like, oh yeah, that was our safe word, it should at the very least be like, that was a strange sound. We should stop and make sure everyone is okay. Or, I'm no longer in the mood for hanky-panky because you're making weird honky sounds. Although she said it sounds more like a drunken goose, and I said as far as violence goes, here's a fun fact about moose. They're like the size of like an SUV, hyper aggressive, will charge at trains, and will swim as far as 20 feet below the surface of water to reach vegetation on the bottom, which means you could be swimming in a muddy lake 20 feet below the surface, unable to see anything, and suddenly be eye to eye with a gigantic SUV with antlers, hyper aggressive, who can hold its breath better than you and is hungry.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like you're not supposed to feed a moose because
if you give a moose a cookie, it's going to ask for milk.
No, next time it sees a person, it's going to think, oh, that person has food. And if they don't give them food, they get angry. And that's like...
So like the abusive nice guy boyfriends online, like, nice guys are great, but you avoid me too long and you get my wrath. Ooh, that's just all of moose kind. Like, oh, I was a good, happy moose until you stopped feeding me. Now I totaled your car.
Yeah, it's like, you were supposed to reward me. I was such a nice guy, and you put me in the friend zone.
But
like,
you've seen trains.
Yes, I have.
These
seen
things
trains.
look at trains and think, yeah, I could fight it.
Yeah, that's...
Why did God put that on the same plane? Like, that and Komodo dragons are proof that we still live in, like, a mythical world, because these are creatures that are horrifying, and I don't know how like, I would rather have to fight a bison than a moose. Because bison are a lot more placid and polite. Also, sorry, my heritage, they already hunted them to near extinction. I just received a call, sort of screwed up the recording. So, but yeah, Dana was showing me a cringy meme, and I got a call from the NSA, and they're like, stop recording, your podcast sucks.
Yeah, and we told them, no thank you.
I said, come over here and waterboard me yourself.
So...
Sir?
There are people who are like, that whole Area 51 raid.
Yeah.
For one thing, I was watching the Chilluminati podcast, and they brought up how, like, there's...
Hey, we're not name dropping another podcast. Take that out of your mouth.
I was watching a random podcast that is not as good as ours.
He was talking to a lonely boy.
Yes. And he was bringing up, like, you know, the Roswell, like, plane crash or whatever.
Yeah.
That was taken to a different military base, and that's where they actually probably keep aliens. Is, like, the place
where is that?
I forget the name of the military base.
That was the smartest thing you can possibly do. Is like, no, we definitely don't have aliens here at Area 51. Meanwhile, you have all of your weird stuff over in a different base that's not nearly as publicly protected. And then the more you beef up security at Area 51, the more people are convinced that's where they need to go.
Which also, the whole Area 51 raid is like, even, like, they can't shoot us all. It's like, they have blast doors. They don't have to. Like, you can't open blast doors.
You get enough crazy rednecks, they will find a way.
Yeah. Which... There's one tweet that I saw that was actually, it's like we should storm the Vatican while they're storming Area 51.
Did you see that there was a former employee at the Vatican who was like, hey, my daughter went missing. I think someone killed her here. They're like, no, that's ridiculous. 9 years later, they went and looked where they thought that the body was found. They found thousands of children's bones.
What?
Yeah, it's not a conspiracy. It's straight up fact that was reported on, but because it doesn't jive well, it's not getting the big play. They're like, oh, Donald Trump might wear the wrong color tie. I'm like, dude, I don't care about him. Yeah. So all of my jokes, like, the Catholic Church, like, it's like the Catholic Church from the Dracula, help me out here, Castlevania anime, yeah.
Where they're just like, God does not want you.
Yeah, my favorite part of that anime, by the way, is when the guy's hiding in a church and then a demon thing walks in. He's like, you can't come here, this is God. So it's like, God hasn't been here for eons. Like, they were so corrupt, God is no longer part of that.
God abandoned them. Like, God abandoned that church.
Yeah, because it wasn't like a holy place. I was like...
It had been corrupted.
And as someone who goes to a school that they really get behind the whole we're a religious institution.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you're also essentially holding yourself to a higher standard across the board of treating people correctly.
Image.
Yeah, it's a very big PR machine. So whenever someone screws the pooch majorly and then they cover it up, all I can think back to is that thing just destroying that horrid priest. Which, by the way, I have to say that whole first episode of that anime where Dracula's like, she wanted me to explore and walk like a man. No more. And he just shows up as a pillar of fire and hatred. I'm like, this is why anime will never go out of style, because that is the only place I could see my greatest sense of anger explained visually in a way that I literally my blood pressure felt different watching. I was like, that's how I felt.
And if it was CGI, you'd be like, this is just a bunch of CGI. It's not CGI.
The intro to each season is just gorgeous, and I'm really pissed they only do that on the intro to the first episode of each season.
Yeah. Well, they do it for the first season is just 3 episodes. They do it for that, and the first episode of the second season they do it. So it's just 4 times that it plays.
Oh my god! The animation is stunning.
Yeah, I plan on running Curse of Strahd D&D campaign, which is like pretty much Dracula.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I put that as the first track, like that theme song. So it's like, which also, since Sam, my twin brother, is trying to run it as well, I'm letting him run it by the book, and I'm just going to pretty much steal the campaign from the Dracula, because he hasn't seen it, despite the fact that I've been begging. Like I said, I will sit with you and watch it with you.
Jeez.
He's like, well, I have a lot of stuff. He's freaking watching like Punisher season 2 right now.
I started watching it. I like the Punisher. I love John Bernthal, and it's awesome. In fact, the corridor VFX and stuntman react stuff. One of the stuntmen there was one of the guys who set up a great fight scene in a gym that the Punisher has early on in the season of season 2. So it's really cool. He even shows the previs. I like it. It's about military. It's about the Punisher. They got great cast and acting.
It does a very respectable job of portraying the military too.
But every single character who was in the military that isn't the Punisher or another main character
or something
is wearing an old army jacket or whatever. And I'm like,
the costume design is.
I'm like, I get it. You did that, but the only military people that still wear stuff like that
are the douchebags.
Either people who washed out early and are still that's how they define themselves, because it's clearly a sore spot that they weren't tough enough, so they double down and say they were too tough. Homeless people, which is depressing. Yeah. Or just old men who are hey,
trying to recapture the young days.
Well, it's this is a really thermal jacket. I'm going hunting today. I think I'll wear this.
Yeah,
people who are I'm old. I'm just gonna wear what is functional. Those are the 3 people that wear it. So a dude at a bar, which, by the way, looked to be not in a cold weather season, drinking in that's just dumb. And a minor critique that everyone gets wrong, they get the angle of the PC, the patrol cap. It's totally wrong every single time. It's supposed to be parallel with the marching surface. They always wear it like a ball cap. Their hair is always too long on the sides. It's not within regs, and they give them facial hair, which is also not correct. Also, they oftentimes put the collar up. It's never up unless you're in body armor to add protection from sand. When you're not in body armor, it's down like a normal shirt collar. Literally hired 1 person, 2 people tops, that was in the military for even a year and a half, or look up AR 670-1, which is the military code of dress, and just read it. Just figure it out. It's not that hard. You look like a Party City costume.
Dude, you could totally make that an article.
I actually, one of the reasons I got into writing was my at the time girlfriend, now wife, she was like, hey, I'm starting to write. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should write. She's like, no, we met in news writing. She's like, you have a good writing style. It's very magazine style, which I didn't know was a thing. She's like, you should write. And so I made something called Personal Space. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to be about, so I just wrote anything that came to my mind, which in a way, sort of off topic, has recaptured that. And then I was like, I want to focus more. I really like to talk about pop culture. 90% of the time is pop culture related. Other times it might be like, hey, like I want to do a podcast with Rachel where we talk about our honeymoon and the weird things about getting married we didn't know about, like how you have to go and get your name changed on this, and that. Now your insurance has to be on this because you can't be on that because that's not your legal name anymore. Checks have to be made to someone else. Like all of the checks for Mr. and Mrs. Joplin, I put in my bank account because she wasn't Rachel Joplin, so she couldn't have them in her account.
Yeah.
So there's just like weird stuff. So whenever I made the off-topic website, that was very intentionally mostly based on like pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the first articles I really wrote, the first one I ever wrote ever, was how I loved Arrow and how I had fallen out of love with Arrow.
Yeah.
And how Felicity was like a major symptom. Like, oh no, you're losing your hair. Yeah, because of the chemo to treat the rest of this cancer in this show. Like, she was the most obvious, but not the biggest part of that. And the next thing I did was, hey, this is what military uniforms screw up. And I listed the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, the okay, the horrible, and the people who get it right. And I've been thinking about going back and doing like a flashback thing where I just repost it onto my current one, since it still ties in. And it's really, you spend 30 minutes just looking like, hey, everyone, I made this uniform on this mannequin. Just look like that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that difficult. And so I sort of owe Rachel me finding this as a hobby, which has now become podcasting as well.
Yeah.
Which I actually owe a little bit to you, because there was a time when we were enrolling in classes and we were there with Dawn, who was helping us enroll, and we were talking about the new MacGyver show and the old MacGyver show and Magnum PI and the old Magnum PI, and we were just joking, and I would say something, she would laugh, you would build off of it, and she would laugh, and we just kept sort of going off of each other. I was like, people are laughing because of this. We should do this for like a thing.
Yeah, that's like one of the things that like kind of got is the fact that primarily we would be having these conversations regardless. It's just a matter of people are like, dude, like that could be a podcast, and we're like, all right.
I mean, you ever think about it? If you have kids, if I have kids someday, they can go back and listen to this, and it's a time capsule of what it's been like.
Don't try and turn me off of this. You're right. Like looking back on this, we're probably gonna cringe so hard. It's like,
absolutely.
It's like, they didn't even know. They didn't know how Batman was going to be played by that one kid from Stranger Things.
Is it Wolf Finhard or Finn Wolfhard?
Finn Wolfhard.
Sounds like a porn star.
It does.
A furry porn star. The worst kind. There was an image that's been floating around. A dude was in the military for 14 years. He was ETSing, which means your contract that you signed up for. You basically sign for an initial contract. You do your time. You can transfer to a new base partway through that. You can try and get new schools like Airborne, Air Assault. Hi. Just come over here, Rebecca. Quit creeping in the background.
No.
Sweet but Jesus.
So you were saying?
You make your contract and you re-up, which is when you make a new contract and you extend it further. You can do extensions or you can re-up, which you can usually try and finagle. If I'm going to give you 2 more years of my life, I'm going to this other duty station, or I'm going to get to go to this school. So you have leveraging power, and during times of combat, they'll do sign-on financial bonuses sometimes. I thought that was the intro to The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air because I heard like a jingle, and then it was just Gracie walking, and her was her collar.
I can't wait for her to scratch that door open and then scratch on the carpet right in front of the mic.
Anyway, so this person had done this for 14 or 15 years, and he had ETS, but the day that they were supposed to do like a goodbye ceremony, so this guy's got to be like a staff sergeant at least, so he's up there, he's been in it for a while, because I made it to specialist/corporal in my initial contract of 3+ years.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even trying. I was just like, hey, I'm going to show up and not hate my life. I mean, it worked sometimes. He shows up. They're like, hey, we're doing an inspection. Sorry, we can't do a party. So he leaves. They're like, hey, come back. We'll give you a going-away party. We have a plaque for you for your time here, which means he was potentially a platoon sergeant. He comes back. He's like, I'm a civilian. I can wear whatever I want. Shows up dressed as a furry. Yeah, and he's like a gigantic, like, tiger wolf-looking thing, accepting a plaque in front of a unit.
They're like decorated officers.
Well, they were enlisted, so they were like officers or people who have college degrees, and so they initially start off at a higher pay.
I
and
really
all
hope
that.
he did it ironically.
No, He said Fursuit Friday, hashtag Fursuit Friday. God has abandoned us. That's when that's like, for years, it's
I
like...
mean, to be fair, if there's anyone you're gonna put on the front lines... Was
that in bad taste?
You offended, like, 2 separate groups or people who are furries. Like,
Oh, furries aren't people. I'm fine with offending them. That's mostly a joke. I'm sure they're wonderful. They might even volunteer at things more than I do.
hopefully not animal shelters.
I was going to say animal shelters, and I was like, oh, God, I'm not going to say that.
Homeless shelters?
Homeless shelters, yes. Maybe they read to blind children. They go on missions trips. They donate tons of money to the blind. They could be wonderful people. When you put that suit on, it's open season.
Also, people who identify as animals, I'm a birdkin. Like, well, what happens when it's birds?
So, yeah, if they're birdkin, you should be able to shoot them.
Which I got into a whole argument with Rebecca, who's standing there watching. There was actually one tweet, it was like some rapper put out like new line of shoes, and it was like, I wouldn't wear those if they could make me walk. And his picture is him, like, as a paraplegic. He can't move his arms even.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, that kid is amazing.
Wow.
Like, I will pay for that kid's treatments right now.
I say with that, we just end the podcast. You can't... Gracie, you jingle butt.